The next morning, Marcus burst into my house like he still had the right to be there. I was in the kitchen making coffee, going through the motions of a normal morning routine when there was nothing normal about any of this. "What did you say to her?" he demanded, his face flushed with anger and something that looked like panic. I took my time pouring the coffee, savoring the ritual, the normalcy of it. "To whom?" "Sarah. She's not answering my calls. Her friend Katie said she checked into a hotel yesterday and won't say why." That was news to me. I'd given her space, hadn't tracked her movements, hadn't tried to control the situation, but I kept my expression neutral. Maybe she needed time to think. Marcus slammed his palm on the granite countertop we'd picked out together 5 years ago. "Don't play games with me. You threatened her, didn't you? Made her choose between me and your money." I set my mug down carefully. "I didn't have to threaten anyone, Marcus. I just showed her the same paperwork I showed you, and I showed her our prenuptial agreement." "What prenup? Sarah said you guys never signed a prenup." This was the piece Marcus didn't know about. When Sarah and I got married 14 years ago, we'd kept it simple, private. No big lawyers, no family drama, just a standard agreement that protected both of us in case things went south. But I'd been thorough, even then. Young and in love, but not stupid. "The one that specifies what happens if either party commits adultery," I said calmly. "Specifically, the forfeiture of all claims to assets acquired during the marriage, including any ownership interest in Maverick Digital Solutions that might have been transferred as part of a divorce settlement." Marcus's face went pale. "You're lying." I walked to my home office, unlocked the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, and pulled out a folder. Inside was our prenuptial agreement, properly notarized and filed, along with all the supporting documentation. Marcus read it, then looked up at me with something like awe. "You've been planning this for 14 years. "No," I said honestly. "I've been protecting what's mine for 14 years. There's a difference." He sank into a chair, the fight draining out of him like air from a punctured tire. "So that's it. You just strip us both of everything." "Not everything," I corrected. "Just what you took from me." But there was more Marcus didn't know about. While he'd been busy destroying our friendship and my marriage, I'd been auditing everything, every expense account, every business trip, every company credit card transaction for the past 2 years. What I found made my stomach turn. "There's one more thing," I said, pulling out another folder. "The forensic accounting review of all company expenses for the past 24 months. Marcus's eyes widened as I spread the papers across the coffee table. Hotel rooms charged to the company for nights when he wasn't on business trips. Restaurant expenses for dinners with Sarah that he'd disguised as client meetings. Even a weekend in Napa last month that he'd claimed was a tech conference. $73,000 worth of company money used to finance his affair with my wife. "David, that's not," he started. "Not what? Not embezzlement?" "Because my accountant says it looks exactly like embezzlement, the betrayal that changed everything. You think you know someone until they show you exactly who they are. This is the story of how I lost everything I thought mattered and gained something I never knew I needed. I was 47 years old, living the American dream in Austin, Texas. Owner of Maverick Digital Solutions, a tech consulting firm I'd built from scratch 12 years earlier. Married to Sarah for 14 years. Best friends with Marcus for nearly 2 decades. I thought I had it all figured out. That night in September, I walked into our house at 11:15 p.m. Late again, chasing the biggest deal of our company's history. the Platinum Corp contract that would triple our revenue overnight. "You missed dinner again," Sarah said from the kitchen, wine glass half empty beside her laptop. There was that tone I'd been hearing more often lately. "I know, babe. But this platinum deal, if we land this, we can finally get that house in the hills you've been wanting." She nodded without looking up. "Marcus called earlier, asked if we're still on for the lake house weekend." Marcus Rivera, my business partner, best man, the guy who'd loaned me 20 grand when we were hemorrhaging money. "Yeah, of course. Tell him I'll handle the boat rental." Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and for just a second, her expression softened. She quickly flipped it face down. "Just Amanda from yoga class," she said, though I hadn't asked. Under the shower, I thought about things I'd been ignoring. Sarah's late Thursday gym sessions, Marcus's sudden interest in dropping by when I was at client meetings, the way they both checked their phones at the same time during dinner. I'd been building something for 12 years, a business, a marriage, a friendship. I trusted the foundation was solid. I was wrong. Let me tell you how Marcus Rivera and I built Maverick Digital Solutions from absolutely nothing 12 years ago. We met at a tech conference in San Francisco back in 2012. I was working for a soulless corporate consulting firm, counting down the minutes until I could escape. He was a systems architect with the same restless energy, the same hunger for something bigger than the companies we were working for. We spent 3 days at that conference talking about everything wrong with how mid-sized companies approached digital transformation. By the time we flew back to Texas, we'd outlined our entire business plan on cocktail napkins and hotel stationery. 6 months later, Marcus quit his job, I quit mine, and we launched Maverick Digital Solutions in my garage. Marcus put in $40,000 of his life savings for a 40% stake. I put in everything else, my savings, my house as collateral, my future. We lived on determination and ramen noodles that first year, taking any client who'd have us, slowly building our reputation one successful project at a time. Sarah was incredible during those early years. She was working as a marketing coordinator at a nonprofit then, making just enough to keep us afloat while I chased my crazy entrepreneurial dreams. Her parents thought I was insane for leaving a stable corporate job. Her friends kept asking when I was going to get serious and go back to real employment. But Sarah believed in me when nobody else did. She was there through the late nights, the failed deals, the moments when I wanted to give up and crawl back to corporate life with my tail between my legs. "You're going to change everything," she used to say, watching me work until 3 a.m. on client proposals. "I can feel it." Marcus was my best man at our wedding. He'd known us as a couple longer than we'd known ourselves, been there for our first date, our engagement, every milestone. He spent holidays with us like family. When Sarah miscarried our first pregnancy in year 4, Marcus was the one who sat with me in the hospital corridor at 2 a.m., not saying anything, just being there when I needed someone most. We were a triangle that couldn't be broken. 3 people who'd built something real together, a company that mattered, a friendship based on mutual respect and shared sacrifice, a marriage that felt like a true partnership. Or so I thought. The cracks started showing last Christmas. Marcus's long-term girlfriend, Jessica, had left him that fall. He was going through what he called his mid-life crisis at 45, questioning everything about his choices and his future. He spent Christmas Day with us, which wasn't unusual. He'd done it for years. What was unusual was the way I caught Sarah looking at him when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The way her hand lingered on his shoulder when she refilled his wine glass. The way they both laughed a little too hard at each other's jokes. like they were sharing some private conversation the rest of us weren't invited to. I brushed it off at first. Marcus was vulnerable, recently single. Sarah was being kind, supportive. That's what friends do, right? You help each other through tough times. But then came the late-night text messages. "Just Marcus checking on the Johnson project," she'd say when her phone lit up at 10 p.m. The new perfume she started wearing to yoga class. The way she'd jump when I walked into a room while she was on her phone, like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. Marcus found excuses to stop by the house during the day when I was at client sites. Needed to grab some files from Sarah for the quarterly reports, he'd explain later. Wanted to check on that leaky faucet in the guest bathroom. Always helpful, always with a perfectly reasonable explanation. I kept my mouth shut and buried myself deeper in work. The Platinum Corp deal was the opportunity of a lifetime, and I convinced myself that once we closed it, I could focus on fixing whatever was pulling my marriage apart. I was blind to what was happening right in front of me. It was a Tuesday when my world imploded. I'd finished early at Platinum Corp after getting signatures. I decided to surprise Sarah with dinner at home instead of working until midnight. I bought her favorite wine. The house was quiet when I arrived. Sarah's car was there, but she wasn't downstairs. I set the wine down and noticed her phone lighting up with a message. I'd never checked her phone before, but something about the silence, the timing. My hand moved before I could think. The message was from Marcus. "Left my watch upstairs. Don't tell David I was here." Everything clicked into place. I went upstairs and found Sarah on our bed, holding Marcus's Apple Watch, the one I'd given him for his birthday. She looked up, saw me, and went pale. "David," she whispered. I held up her phone. She didn't deny it, just sat there, shoulders slumped. "You're always working?" she finally said. "He listens to me. He's there for me." I nodded, feeling strangely calm. "I need time to process this." I left, drove to the empty office and sat in the dark, staring at nothing. It wasn't just my wife's betrayal, it was Marcus. 18 years of friendship. The man who'd helped me build everything, now destroying it. I poured bourbon, but didn't drink it. By midnight, something had hardened inside me. I'd spent 12 years building. Now I was going to take something apart. I called my attorney. I gave Sarah space for 3 days while I built my case. During those 3 days, I was the picture of a devastated husband trying to process his world falling apart. I slept in the guest room, didn't ask where she went during the day, didn't question who she was texting when her phone buzzed constantly. But during business hours, I was building something else entirely. The morning after finding Marcus's watch, I met with Rebecca Chen, our corporate attorney, in her downtown office. Austin's skyline gleamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but I barely noticed the view. "You want to invoke the morality clause?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "David, that's nuclear. It's exactly what it was designed for." When Marcus and I had formalized our partnership 12 years ago, Rebecca had insisted on including a clause protecting the company if either partner engaged in conduct that could damage our reputation or business relationships. At the time, I was thinking about criminal activity or public scandals, maybe someone getting arrested for drunk driving or embezzling client funds. I never imagined I'd use it because my partner was sleeping with my wife. "The buyout terms are harsh," Rebecca warned, flipping through the original partnership agreement. 30 cents on the dollar of current valuation, and he forfeits any claim to pending contracts or intellectual property developed during the partnership. "I know the terms. I wrote them." "And you have proof of the misconduct?" I slid my phone across her desk. While Sarah slept off her guilt and wine the night before, I'd done something I never thought I'd do. I'd gone through her phone, her laptop, her email accounts, downloaded everything, text messages going back 4 months. GPS data showing Marcus's car at our house during work hours when I was across town at client meetings. Hotel receipts on his personal credit card that matched dates when Sarah said she was at yoga class. Restaurant charges on company credit cards for lunches that never appeared on any business calendar. Rebecca scrolled through it all, her expression professionally neutral. "This will get ugly, David. Are you prepared for that?" "It's already ugly. I'm just deciding who's going to get hurt." The next step was the one that would either save my company or destroy it. I spent the next day calling every major client, every pending prospect, every business relationship Marcus and I had built together over 12 years. "I want you to hear this from me first," I told each of them. "Maverick Digital is going through a restructuring. Marcus Rivera will no longer be with the company, but I want to assure you that this won't affect our commitment to your projects or our delivery timeline." The response was better than I'd hoped. Most of our clients had worked primarily with me anyway. Marcus was the technical genius, the guy who could solve any complex integration problem, but I was the face of the company, the relationship builder, the one they trusted. One by one, they confirmed their continued business. Some even seemed relieved that they'd be working directly with me going forward. The biggest test was Platinum Corp. I called CEO Jennifer Walsh directly, knowing that this conversation could make or break everything. "David, I have to ask," she said after I'd explained the situation in carefully neutral terms. "Is this going to affect your ability to deliver on our contract? Jennifer, you've been working with me for 6 months on this deal. Have I ever given you a reason to doubt my word?" She laughed. "Fair point. We're backing you, not your company name, but I want a revised contract reflecting the new structure." That's when I knew I could survive this. More than survive, I could win. 3 days after finding Marcus's watch, I called him and asked him to meet me at the office after hours. Said I needed to discuss the Platinum implementation timeline and some technical concerns that had come up. He showed up at 7 p.m. looking exactly like he always did. Jeans, button-down shirt, that confident smile that had charmed clients, and apparently my wife. Like a man with nothing to hide. Like my friend of 18 years. "Hey, partner," he said, dropping into the chair across from my desk like he owned half the place. Which, technically, he did, for about 5 more minutes. "What's so urgent it couldn't wait till morning?" I slid the folder across to him without a word. "Partnership dissolution papers. I'm buying out your shares." His face went from confused to shocked to angry as he flipped through the documents. "What the hell is this? Conduct detrimental to the company's reputation and business interests. Where is this coming from?" I kept my voice level, professional, like we were negotiating any other business deal. "You know exactly where it's coming from, Marcus. Is this about Sarah?" He leaned forward, lowering his voice like we were conspirators instead of former friends. "Look, I know this is complicated, but 18 years of friendship, and that's your explanation? It's complicated?" He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture I'd seen him make 1,000 times when he was trying to solve a difficult technical problem. Except this wasn't a problem he could code his way out of. "You've been absent, David, working 18-hour days, chasing deals, building this company. When was the last time you actually talked to her? Actually listened to what she was saying?" The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. "So this is my fault." "I'm not signing this," he said, pushing the folder back across the desk. You can't force me out over a personal matter that has nothing to do with business. Actually, I can. Section 4, subsection C, read it carefully. He glanced down, reading the fine print he'd signed 12 years ago without question, trusting me completely. Back when we were friends, back when we were partners in every sense of the word. His face darkened as he realized what he was looking at. 30 cents on the dollar? You'd really do this to me after everything we've built together? You did this to us, I corrected. I'm just following the contract. Marcus stood up, knocking his chair back. Sarah won't stand for this. She'll back me up. We'll fight you together. I just nodded. You should call her. He pulled out his phone, his fingers jabbing at the screen as he stormed out of the office. I could hear him in the hallway calling her name, the desperation already creeping into his voice. I sat back in my chair, watching him leave, waiting for the next domino to fall. The next morning, Marcus burst into my house. What did you say to her? Sarah won't answer my calls. I showed her the same paperwork, I said calmly, and our prenuptial agreement. His face went pale. What prenup? The one that says adultery means forfeiture of all marital assets, including any ownership in Maverick Digital. You've been planning this for 14 years. No, I've been protecting what's mine. I pulled out another folder. Company expense audit. $73,000 in charges for hotels and dinners with Sarah. That's embezzlement, Marcus. It was temporary. I was going to pay it back. With what money? Sign the papers, or this goes to the DA. Marcus stared at the floor, finally understanding what he'd lost. When did you become so cold? The night I found your watch on my bed. He signed the next morning. Marcus's 40% stake became mine for 30 cents on the dollar. While he cleaned out his office, I secured commitments from 85% of our clients. Sarah came home. We need to talk. I've filed divorce papers, I said. 14 years of marriage and you're throwing it away? You already made that decision. I'm handling paperwork. The settlement was fair, but not generous. She got enough to start over, nothing more. 6 months later, I sat with Lone Star Capital. They wanted to acquire Maverick for $42 million. I'd stay as CEO for 3 years with a 25% stake. When Marcus learned about the sale, he calculated his lost fortune, $17 million. One mistake, he said, and you destroyed my life. You made that choice every day for 4 months. I just made sure there were consequences. I'm recording this 3 years after everything fell apart and came back together. The Lone Star acquisition exceeded every projection. My 25% stake is now worth more than the entire original sale price. A year ago, I got a call from Sarah. She apologized, really apologized. She and Marcus had tried to make it work, but realized they'd destroyed something real for something that was never going to last. I met Elena during an interview about the business lessons from my story. We're getting married next month. She's everything Sarah wasn't. Ambitious, independent, someone who builds instead of taking. Marcus moved back to California, took a technical job with a mid-size firm. I hope he's learned something. Here's what I want you to understand. Betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's a chapter that teaches you who you really are. I learned that loyalty is a choice people make every day, not a debt they owe you. 3 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. What I actually lost was everything that was holding me back. Marcus and Sarah made their choices. I made mine. If you're going through something similar, remember, you're not responsible for their choices. But you are responsible for your response. Make it count. Build something better on the ruins of what they destroyed. That's my story. Thanks for listening. End of recording. Total word count. Approximately 6,800 words mattered. What I actually lost was everything that was holding me back. Marcus and Sarah made their choices. I made mine. And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. If you're going through something similar, if someone you trusted has betrayed that trust, remember this. You're not responsible for their choices, but you are responsible for your response. Make it count. Make it hurt in all the right ways, and then build something better on the ruins of what they destroyed. That's my story. That's how I learned the difference between being loyal and being strong. Thanks for listening. End of recording. Total word count. Approximately 9,500 words.